This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I have part 1 of Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator coming up on this episode. BC Bernard Campion is attempting to pull together humankind to fight interstellar enemies, and he has the human governments moving towards a unified currency, alliance dollars, and even contemplating a new solar alliance, if humanity can survive. They've had a breather, but that only means it's been too quiet. What lies in store as we get into part 1 of Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator, coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. A big thank you to patrons. My patrons help keep this podcast going. Keep the lights on, keep the gas in the tank, whatever analogy, whatever metaphor you want to use. It does help me keep this podcast going and keep my website up and everything else. So if you want to help with that, I'd love your help. I have 3 different levels of membership, $2, $5, and $10 a month. And you can do that through Patreon, Patreon. Patreon.com is the website. It's patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio for my show, to support my show. Of course, you can still go to my site, glowinthedarkradio.com or mikeluoma.com, and follow the links from there. But again, a big thank you to those of you who do. I've got probably 6, 7 patrons who help out each month. So just more than a handful, but that more than a handful keeps things going. At least as much as I can, you know. I don't have a ton of downloads. Probably got about 40 or so going with each episode right now, which means that about 40 of you are listening to this. And that's kind of good because we're in the 3rd book of a trilogy. And what you see when you do this on a podcast and you bring it out in serial form is it goes down each week. You can't help it. Not everybody stays through for the whole story, but I do have a core of people who are making their way through Vatican Abdicator, so thank you. And we are at episode 750. Used to be I'd make a huge big deal out about the anniversary episodes, if you will. I didn't make a big deal at 700. I'm not making a big deal now at 750 except to bring it up. Because podcasting's become a lot more ordinary and mundane. Used to be, making it to 500 or so was a big thing because people hadn't been podcasting and there weren't that many out there. And we do see kind of a settling out going on now, where a lot of people that had started up these big podcasts are shutting them down because they couldn't make money on them. I've never really made money on my podcast. My patrons help support it, but I don't break even, so it's not something I'm doing to make money on. I hope people buy my books and things, and that, helps. But again, it's been funny to see podcasting start out as something nobody knew about. Be one of the people doing it. I started this in 2006, which is why I'm hitting 750. And then to see it explode and see everybody podcasting, and now seeing it kind of, like I said, shake out a little bit. It's interesting. I'm still going. We'll have part 2 of Chapter 15 next week. But first, Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator, Part 1, coming up next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. And for fans of Mike, we keep you posted on new smart home systems and products like robot vacuums and robot lawnmowers that seemed like science fiction not too long ago. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's Fix It, F-I-X-I-T, Home Improvement.
Now here's Part 1 of Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Reports have Ptolemy out far from the solar system, hitting some of the fringe worlds of the Flays. The Eldred continue to hang back, observing, silent. Taking advantage of the relative calm, BC meets with the UTZ Council to push for his currency name change. After some initial friction, they agree to call them Alliance dollars. BC goes further. He proposes the new government. The UTZ Council, goaded by Wentworth, reluctantly agrees to the new representative body. BC is able to make the Solar Alliance official. They set a date for a parliamentary election in 3 months, June 4th, 2112. Representatives will be elected from Earth, Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and the project bases, creating a government body that will then elect a prime representative. The prime representative will then organize the rest of the government out of the other representatives. The UTZ Council will remain in an advisory position to whoever becomes prime representative. BC decides to run as a representative for Vatican City. Richard Wentworth runs as one of the orbital representatives. Anita Capituna runs to be one of the representatives for the project bases, all the while espousing her hatred for politics. Strong candidates arise on Earth and Mars as well. The Caliph does not engage in politics, preferring to remain the religious leader to his people. 3 months of campaigning pass by quickly. Fortunately, their breathing room continues, as the Eldred remain aloof and Ptolemy is reported to be ranging far beyond the reaches of Flay space into distant systems populated by alien races not yet known to humanity. The unified military is christened the Solar Alliance Interplanetary Force, the SAIF, keeping the solar system safe. 4 divisions cover Earth and Earth orbit, the Moon and the asteroid base, Ceres and the shipyard. The project continues to retrofit the SAIF's ships on the old asteroid base, while the shipyard cranks out more Stinger ships. Ceres has become the central point for travel to the project outposts in deep space. The SAIF's 4th Division, based on the project base at Ceres, functions as an elite force. They're equipped with the cutting-edge tech that the project develops as soon as it's tested and deemed operational. They train among the asteroids. Among the rank and file of the SAIF, the 4th becomes known as the division to serve in. Based in the asteroids, they're kept out of the public eye, and hopefully from the eyes of Ptolemy and the Eldred as well. On Election Day, BC is chosen to sit on the new Solar Alliance Parliament. Anita Capituna is elected representative and governor of the project holdings in the asteroids, even though the general public is still only dimly aware of the base's existence. The formation of the Solar Alliance creates a growing awareness in the public of just how far the project has taken humanity into the stars. In the absence of any real competition, BC is raised to prime representative during the first session of the Solar Alliance House of Representatives. BC names Anita the project director and CEO. Under her leadership, the project's assembly plants have been cranking out trans-space warships as fast as they can, applying the technical advances reverse-engineered from the Eldred ship. Things have been going well through the spring and early summer, but BC still looks over his shoulder, constantly waiting for Ptolemy or the Eldred to strike their next blow. BC's July begins with meetings, appointments requested by the representatives of the Flays and the Domo together. Funny, the Eldred once told us never to trust the Flays and the Domo when they work together. 2 Domo dressed in sparkling purple robes roll into BC's new prime representative's office on Lunar Prime. 2 spindly-limbed Flays follow them in, awkwardly angling their way sideways through the doorway and into their seats at BC's conference table. One of the Domo speaks first. "Congratulations, Prime Representative Campion," the alien greets BC. on your elections. Thank you, BC says. The Flays merely nod at BC. What can I do for you? I believe it is more a case of what we can do for you, the Domo says. Oh, really? BC responds cautiously. Can't dismiss them outright. Really? The other Domo says. We want to help. Serve as go-betweens between you humans and the Eldred. I see. Have you spoken with the Eldred lately? BC asks. Because, you see, and this is the thing, BC involuntarily raises his voice a little, they've been attacking us. Yes, we know, the first Domo says, and this is unfortunate, but you are attacking them in their eyes. In the eyes of the Eldred, the other Domo continues the thought, Ptolemy and his humans are the same as the rest of you, and they are attacking everybody. The Flays hisses and wheezes, and the wrist-worn translator says, Ptolemy and his men attack us even now. Not really having a response, BC just stares back at the four aliens, not saying a word. We believe we can help both sides, the first Domo says, and ourselves. Of course, BC acknowledges. It makes sense to us to make you this offer, the Domo says with a nod. BC feels tired, drained. Damn Domo, what's their game? Just being near them makes me drowsy. Tell you what, BC says. Detail for me in a report how you propose to get the Eldred to stop attacking us, and what you want from the Solar Alliance in return. A report? The Domo asks. Put it in writing, BC tells the alien. I have to go now. Other meetings, other things to attend to, he tells them. What could be more important than the very survival of your race? The first Domo asks BC. Nothing, I assure you, but I can't waste my time either. You think we are wasting your time? I think there's something you want from me, but I don't think the Eldred will listen to you. I know we all want to stop Ptolemy, but I don't think you can help us do that either. We need to prove our worth to you then, the Domo says. We once were of value to those of you in your project. Could we not be a valuable ally once again? The Flays hisses and clicks. Allies, the translator says. Ptolemy once again has a small fleet of ships and an apparent planetary base, the Domo says. Perhaps this information is useful to you? It is. Damn. Didn't know Ptolemy had built back up again. Not great news, but it is useful, I guess. What do you know? BC asks them. We know where his planetary base is, the Domo tells BC. We also know that the Eldred have not been merely observing you. The Eldred are preparing something. A new weapon? A new plague? It is unclear. They have gone into a defensive mode, the Domo says. Now might be a good time to talk to them. Now? How is this a good time? BC asks the alien incredulously. They are not attacking. We can speak with them on your behalf. It is, therefore, a good time, the Domo assures BC. The Flays hisses, clicks and wheezes, and the translator speaks. We are being attacked by Ptolemy. We need your help. You know Ptolemy and how he thinks. His people are your people. Help us stop him. This helps you as well. Funny that the Flays, although using a translator, speak clearest to what they want. They're willing to admit what's in it for them. So, BC says, our friends the Flays are looking for our help. The Flays, through the translator, says, yes. We all help each other, the Domo insists. We speak to the Eldred for you. You benefit. So you say, BC says in tepid agreement. The Domo continues. If your forces were to engage Ptolemy's forces, that would draw him away from the Flays. The Flays benefit. BC grows tired, more drained. He stifles a yawn. So how, then, do the Domo benefit? BC asks. We benefit in closer relations with humans and better relations with the Eldred. And we have agreements between ourselves and the Flays. We benefit from these as well. I bet you do. I see. Damn, it's draining just to sit here and listen to this thing. We tell you where Ptolemy and his base are. You deal with him, the Domo says. We tell the Eldred what you are doing, and then negotiate with them on your behalf. So what are the Flays doing? BC asks. The lead Flays hisses. In part, the translator says, we keep the other races at bay. Other races? BC wonders. The Flays hisses, wheezes, clicks, and is translated. The Snacked, the Devriesium, others. There are many other races out there, Bernard Campion. Dolome has been striking them as well. And with the Eldred so distracted by you and Dolome, many sense opportunity as well. Their first opportunity in hundreds of thousands of years, the Domo adds. The Flays could be quite busy. The Flays rises up as it speaks again through its translator. We know how to fight these aliens. BC closes his eyes. He pinches the bridge of his nose, trying to fight the exhaustion now threatening to overwhelm him. Look, he says to the aliens, let me think on this generous offer. Can we reconvene tomorrow? Certainly, the Domo says. Thank you, BC says. He smiles and excuses himself. He ducks out of the room as quickly as he can. Damn, I've never experienced the Domo drain quite that severely before. It must come on stronger when they want something from you. I need some sleep, now. BC retires to his rooms to rest after his encounter. Sleep quickly overtakes him. He finds himself again at the center of a still gray sea, at the center of the silent ocean. The walls fall away, and he's surrounded by gray. There you are, there. BC feels a hammer come down on his head. Defend! You resist, infant? Defend! You cannot! I can! Defend! Silence. I can. Lord, please, let me sleep in peace. Silence continues. Having shut out his adversary, BC finally rests and gets some peaceful sleep. He greets the Domo and the Flay's representatives refreshed the next morning. His mind buzzes with a new set of questions to ask them. Before we go any further, BC begins, I've got a few questions for you. I'd like to ask you more about the ancient enemy. We will tell you anything we can, the first Domo says cautiously. What sort of psionic abilities, telepathic abilities, did the ancient enemy possess? BC asks them. What do you mean? The Domo asks, in either real or feigned ignorance. Maybe that isn't translating so well, BC offers. The Flays hisses out an answer, translated, We know what you meant. Thank you, BC says, turning to directly address the suddenly helpful alien. Could you elaborate? The Flays begins a long hiss, then clicks, wheezes, and hisses again. The translator kicks in midway through. The ancient enemy could invade your mind as well as your planet, the translator says. Turn other beings into their mental slaves. At least the strongest among them could. Oh! The Domo figures out what BC is asking. The Kanok. Yes, the mind attack. We did not understand before. There were those among the ancient enemy who could bend others' wills to their own. Was Dolome one of the strong ones? BC asks. We have no idea, the Domo admits. We had not heard any reference to him specifically. We have only stories and legends of that distant past. None of those really tell us individuals' names, but they do tell of the Kanok. The Kanok, BC says. Mind attack. Kanok attack. Excuse me, the Domo says. Never mind. The Domo looks scared. What? BC asks. What did I say? The never mind is a complete state of no mind, the end result of the worst Kanok, Eratia, a walking death. Sorry, BC apologizes. It's just a human expression, like, don't worry about it. I didn't mean to scare you. The two Domos settle down. Spooked them. The Flays pipes up again. The translator speaks. The Eldred also possessed this ability, though to a far more limited degree. They were much weaker. Do they still? BC asks. We would think so, the Flays says, translated. No kidding. I wonder if the eldest of the Eldred read my mind during our visit on Eldre. Could I be hearing one of the Eldred in my head? Pretending to be Dolome? I don't think so. Well, thank you for this information, BC says. It's quite important to us. I'll take this as a gesture of friendship and goodwill between our races. Does this mean you are taking us up on our offer of diplomacy? The first Domo asks. Can't hurt, BC admits. Go ahead. See if the Eldred are willing to refrain from trying to wipe out the human race. Well, yes. We will go and see if we can open a dialogue, the Domo says. The Flays hisses something. The translator says, We will open Flay's territory to you, provide you with star charts, A moment. The Flays pauses. They have just been sent to your network, the Flays informs him. Just like that, huh? BC is impressed. The Domo shifts nervously, but then steadies. And now, we have just sent the location of Dolome's base to your net, the Domo tells him. The Domo then gets up from the table. That is all for now. They leave the room, followed out by the Flays. The lead Flays pauses before leaving the room. Thank you, the Flays manages to hiss out, without the translator. After starting a second in surprise, BC nods at the alien. Thank you, he says, and he gives the Flays a slight bow. The alien turns and leaves the room. Well, that's something. Allies? I don't think so. I just don't trust them.
That was part 1 of Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. BC has got the Solar Alliance working with the Flays and the Domo. Well, if they can help, why not? Just seems wise not to trust them very much, you know? And how icky, to feel Dolome in your mind. BC seems once more to be able to block him out. And there is now a Solar Alliance. That was the big news. How about that? And BC is now officially PR Prime Representative. The complexion of the war seems to be changing. So is its complexity, for that matter. We'll see if BC can help humanity keep up in part 2 of Chapter 15 of Vatican Abdicator on our next episode of Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Well, again, this Memorial Day weekend, this is episode 750 of the Glow-in-the-Dark Radio podcast. So I'm celebrating a little. Woo! If you want to help me celebrate and become a patron and help support the podcast, that would be awesome. You can do that for $2, $5, or $10 a month. If you are a patron, you get extra stuff. More when I can, less when I can't. But I at least try to get you early episodes and things of that nature for helping to support the podcast. If you want to do that, you can do it at patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, or just go to glowinthedarkradio.com or mikeluoma.com and follow the links to become a patron or to learn more about being a patron and supporting the show. That is all for this week. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2023 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NC-ND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.